Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by El Chico. For 30 years, Knoxville's best Tex-Mex has been served at El Chico. Now you can get your spicy fix and help support local businesses right now by ordering takeout, delivery, or curbside from El Chico. Visit their Facebook page, El Chico Knoxville. Make sure it's the Knoxville location for more on their specials. And they got a ton of specials right now. But takeout, delivery, and curbside from El Chico in North Knoxville. I've been going there literally since they opened 30 years ago. All right. Tennessee grabbed their third commitment in 2 weeks this past week when Rock Taylor, a 3-star from Oxford, Alabama, accepted an offer. UT's announcement listed him as a receiver. 24/7 Sports has him listed as a tight end. According to their rankings, he's the 17th best tight end in the country. That is 10 commitments for Tennessee. We talked about this with Ryan Callahan a little bit last week, but that's now 10 commitments for the Vols, who are up to number 12 in the latest national rankings, just one slot behind Rutgers and Greg Schiano.
Who's that?
Yeah, it's interesting. But only Florida has more commitments in the SEC right now with 13. So the number of commitments Tennessee has is impressive. Only one 4-star, no 5-stars. So one 4-star guy. Now look, the stars move, they change. Some of them, they don't matter. I know. But Florida has 13 commitments, 7 4-stars. Tennessee has 10 commitments, 1 4-star. Are you more impressed with the 10 commitments, considering everything that's going on, or a little concerned that it's only 1 4-star?
I would not be concerned right now, and here's why. A couple of reasons. One is, even though you're right, Tennessee's second behind Florida in terms of number of commitments, they're third in the SEC in rankings right now, 24/7's platform as of late last night, 12th nationally. That's not bad. So, plus, a lot of the commitments are going to turn over. So, some of these guys are going to drop out, and other guys are going to be added in. And I do remember having this similar conversation for Jeremy Pruitt's 2020 class. Hey, should Pruitt be recruiting on a higher level? And it turned out pretty well at the end. Some of these guys are high 3-stars. They could move up. That could all change. It's going to turn over. I think only 40% of the top 100 right now is committed. So there's still a lot of high prospects out there. So I wouldn't be concerned right now.
I'd be a little bit concerned. But now, to Vince's point, there are players that get re-ranked, right? So we saw Harrison Bailey go from a 4 to 5. So there are some players that could get re-ranked. And I'm going to guess that one reason Tennessee's ranked as high as it is because of the quantity, not the quality.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I'll say this about this staff. Last year, they brought in 19 true freshmen. Now, somebody told me in August they felt like they wasn't a bust in the group. By the end of the year, I think you could argue that there might have only been a couple of them that didn't look like they were SEC players, and those were at the tight end position. But I do think this staff does a very good job of evaluating. But if you extrapolate that out, I don't want 10% of my class to be 4-star and 90% to be 3-star. I don't want that. So that's a little concern right now. But they could also recruit over some of these players as well.
I also wonder, not that Tennessee has gotten much better as a state as the mid-state has grown in size. Now, those kids are still moving in there, so do they grow up Tennessee fans? You're not to that point yet. But Florida, with more of the 4-stars, Florida's in the state of Florida. I wonder if this COVID thing kind of puts Tennessee back at a disadvantage because Tennessee is getting better, but it's still not Florida in terms of prospects. Is it easier to recruit your back porch than it is go in somewhere else when you're doing it over a FaceTime link?
It's actually a great point. I talked to Barton Simmons, and you guys aired it on Sports Talk this week, and that was one of the things he mentioned. He said some of the schools that have to recruit outside of their state, there's not that base in your backyard, the Nebraskas and some of the others. They have it more difficult than, say, North Carolina, who's really crushing it in a great year with with a lot of players in that area, Georgia, Florida, some of those that have players in their backyard to where they've already been there a couple of times. They don't have to travel longer distances of time to get to campuses. I think there is an advantage for those right now in this current state.
All right, let me be very quick here, like 30 seconds. Jimmy, you wrote on the Sports Animal website this week. You do a blog over there as well as your sports talk, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7. But on your blog, you wrote about Tennessee chasing another transfer, someone who's actually been in the news recently.
Yeah, the Lovett kid out of Mississippi State. He has entered the transfer portal. He did so shortly after his head coach sent out an ill-advised meme Tennessee had recruited him 2 years ago. He's a prospect out of Mississippi. He was a number 4 rated player in the state of Mississippi. He has been in Mississippi State 2 years. Tennessee's familiar with him, and a good defensive tackle prospect. And I think Tennessee's right in the thick of trying to get him to come to Tennessee.
Okay, and later this month, the NCAA is going to take up a possible waiver to the transfer rule. Different interpretations online, apparently. My thinking was this was being done, if it passes, it was being done to kind of ease the backlog that you're going to have. You're going to have so many things with this COVID thing. When it clears and everybody's coming back, you're going to have so many things to work through. My thought was the NCAA is saying, we don't want this at the clearinghouse. Everybody gets a waiver. It's a one-time deal. If that happens, that would be, and it happens for this year, that would be a good thing for Cade Mays. That would clear his path. I think Cade Mays gets cleared anyway by a knuckle or two, but I do think that would certainly be a big benefit. It would be interesting, though, if everybody gets a one-time waiver. Is there anybody from Tennessee that takes off that you wouldn't expect? I mean, it's interesting to see this thing coming down the road. Your thoughts on, should the NCAA, if they do it and they do it for this year, are you in favor of a one-time waiver for transfers?
Yeah, I would be. Obviously, there would be some ramifications, some unintended consequences that would come through. But I think on a one-year basis, I think I would be fine with it.
I'm not completely sold on it because I think what you're doing is you're going to invite more transfers if that's possible. But I think that there'll be more people that look at it and say, well, I'm third team, or I don't like the way the coach talked to me, and I think you'll have more people leaving. It's hard to determine how many people stayed because they weren't going to play right away somewhere else. So I'm not 100% sold on it, but if you press me on it, I'd say, okay, I would pass.
If you can't go visit schools, are you going to really have an educated decision on going somewhere else?
And I also think you limit transfers some by not having spring football.
Yeah.
Possibly.
At Tennessee, anyway.
Yeah. All right. We just mentioned Mike Leach and his ill-advised tweet, and earlier this week, another guy that Tennessee had chased before Jeremy Pruitt, he made national news and had to come out and apologize for it. When we come back, Leach, Gundy, Pruitt, did Tennessee get the right guy, all things considered? Come on back. We'll discuss.